Welcome everyone to Let's Do It Again.
I'm Matt.
I'm Eric.
I beat you to it.
Yeah?
There was a moment where you paused and I was like, is he not going to say he's Eric?
Well, I thought... well, we were talking about the Avengers and then the Inhale thing, and I was thinking about something like that, where I was like, and I'm...
Episode ends.
Yeah. Credits. This episode's probably going to be maybe our longest episode, because it's a TV show pitch.
Yeah, there's a decent amount to kind of talk about and flesh out. And
yeah.
At least in mine, I have a lot of mains, air quotes, main characters.
I've got mine broken down into, like, arcs with, like, how many episodes. Anyways. But I have this... I think there's a possibility that this episode could actually be an episode that, like, has crossover potential, where, like, people will accidentally click on this because, like, Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
So... I feel like there are two things that... Real quick, I want to explain what our show is, for anybody that knew that found it. But also, we kind of have to explain what Kamen Rider is, for anybody that... Okay, so, for anybody that just clicked on this because it said Kamen Rider, this is a show we do every other week, where each week we have one of us comes up with a prompt, and then the following, the next
every
week,
other week,
then the next week we do a pitch, and it's always a remake or a sequel or reboot of something. And so the prompt last week was that to do the next season of Kamen Rider. So that's what our pitches are. Well, that's what this is. We'll each be pitching a Kamen Rider show. Anybody that doesn't know what Kamen Rider is, there's a whole genre in Japan called tokusatsu, which is it's their superheroes. It's people in costumes fighting. Well, they fight monsters instead of supervillains. So other people in costumes, they fight monsters. And so there's a couple of videos on YouTube. I think, like, if you really don't know, I was just watching some last night. I forget what the channel is. I'll put the link in the something.
In the something.
Yeah. But they've done, like, they did like a video just on tokusatsu, and then they've done like one on like each, like Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Ultraman, Kakaider. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of my pitch is kind of inside baseball, so you're gonna have to bear with me on that. I mean, I'll explain some stuff, but it's a lot about, like, old Showa Kamen Rider.
And mine is sort of outsider looking in, because I'm not as deep in this.
Well, and I'm not either.
Yeah.
I like this stuff, and I've watched quite a bit of it. But, like, there are people that, like, have seen all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's going to be the Kamen Rider. I've only seen Zyuranger for Sentai. Garo, I've never watched any of the Kakaiders or anything like that. So, but yeah. Alright, so it's your prompt. You go first.
Alright, so, up top, both of our pitches are technically things that were not Kamen Rider initially. They were ideas we've kind of had and have kind of fleshed out. We just kind of repackaged, threw bug helmets and motorcycles in there. The inception of mine is just an oddball thing. A couple years ago, Eric suggested we do a Power Rangers themed RPG campaign, and we were all going to come up with our own gimmick. And I immediately called Universal Monsters. Game never happened, but I've always kind of held to that theme. And ultimately, yes, that's what my Kamen Rider's gimmick is, are Universal Monsters. But eventually, it evolved from being Power Rangers to its own thing, I'm
going to stop you right there.
Yes.
We said that this was going to be the one where we didn't have the same... Like, our pitches weren't like...
Are you Universal Monsters?
I have Universal... Yeah.
Oh, well...
Not exactly the same, but we'll get to that.
We'll see.
Does he form change in Universal Monsters?
No.
Okay.
We'll see.
Because Kiva does that.
So, mine would open with a big prologue sequence where Dracula, Wolfman, the Mummy, Creature, and the Invisible Man are all at Castle Frankenstein, where he has developed a device to conjure a interdimensional rift where they intend to summon an anchor, air quote. They call it the anchor, which will, it serves as kind of a lock for dimensions so that they can bring their world in and then, like, lock it. And so that's their whole thing that they're doing. and a group of adventurers has kind of come out to stop them. And
did you say a group of adventurers?
Adventurers, just kind of ruffians, guys in trench coats and stuff. An older man in a trench coat with a belt buckle is like, I'll handle it alone. Go back to town and prepare for the worst, because I'm the only one who can deal with this. So, middle of the ritual, the man attacks, starts fighting. He is Abraham Van Helsing. Except he is totally a rider. And I kind of picture him being like, it's like an armored trench coat and witch hunter hat. Something so cool you'd be like, man, I can't wait for this show.
Kind of like somewhere between like Wizard and Skull.
Kind of, yeah. I said that to you earlier. I'm like, I have a character who in my head, I'm like, he's the Skull of this, where you might be like, oh, this guy looks cool. He's not in this. He shows up,
just like Skull,
and he dismantles the ritual, beating each of the monsters and sealing them kind of into his belt. Before he kind of seals it off, a booming voice kind of calling out to him, saying, fear will always be a thing. It'll just get worse. Like, there will always be fear. Hope dies, but we'll always have things to fight. So Van Helsing's like, whatever, close the portal, drags the Frankenstein away, and that's kind of our opening.
This is the beginning of Monster Squad.
Oh yeah. I was like, it's kind of Monster Squad-y. And now we go into it being kind of Static Shock. A bunch of kids are having a party.
Wait. Do we ever get a title? Like, what is your Kamen Rider?
It'd be technically probably the Japanese word for monster. It's like Monsuda or something like that.
Monsuda.
But it's, Kamen Rider Monsuda. Or whatever the word is. I looked it up once. I didn't write it down. Then we jump into a party. The next big developmental scene for the first episode would be all these kids hanging out at a party when another one of these rifts opens up, but it's now, and people are just getting knocked around. People are getting really hurt. Our main kids that are focused on slightly through the party all get kind of really, really hurt. One gets killed, straight up killed, when a warrior of light shows up to fight, but is ultimately killed himself. You watch the Trenchcoat Kamen Rider, the new one, get killed. His belt releasing the essences of the original monsters, which go into our mains. That's just the startup.
So you have a Kamen Rider Frankenstein and a Kamen Rider Dracula.
Yeah. The riders are certain monsters. Then
Kamen Rider Gills. You can't do Kamen Rider Gills. He exists.
I didn't name him Gills. It was almost. He might be the laziest name.
Gilman.
Then a descendant of Frankenstein shows up and is like, it worked! I summoned another portal! And all the dark champions that kind of walk out, these various kind of shadowy monsters, are just kind of he's like, alright, so I can help again? Finish out my grandfather's work, my great-great-grandfather's work? And they cast him aside, saying they don't need him. And so he gets mad, he's bitter, he takes the broken belt and vows vengeance. So, and then we kind of follow the teens who kind of... He also takes the dead kid, specifically, the one big dead kid. Because he's like, I'm going to make a warrior. That's his plan, is make something that can fight, get revenge. So you get one teen who becomes a vampire, but it's very Nosferatu. He can't go out, and he's very ugly, very one just becomes a wolf man. There's no full moon rules, it's just, he is a prowling psycho. He's like an Innsmouth person. I guess I should break down the personalities too. And I'll start using their names. Blood becomes a vampire. Rider Blood becomes a vampire. Yeah. Is
he Kamen Rider Blood?
Yeah, he's Rider Blood. And he's, Blood Rider, I think. Was it Creature Rider, Blood Rider? He's the main character, but he's like the shy kid. He's not he kind of just was at that party incidentally. He had a cooler friend that brought him. Rider Moon, Wolfman, he's the athlete of the main group. He kind of was always the track star, stuff like that. Very, very spunky. Rider Creature is the cool kid, except now he's a bloated fish man, an Innsmouth looking guy, and he's ugh. So he's kind of he has it a little easier. A couple of these kids have it a little easier of a curse because they're dealing with maladies. The one kid who got hit with Invisible Man, nobody knows where he is. He's vanished, of course. Yeah, he's gone invisible.
That's a budget saver right there.
It's a budget saver. And then one girl, what's his name? He's Rider Fado, which is it's Japanese for unseen or something like that. I was like, oh cool, that. Some of them are Japanese. Then Rider Pharaoh is a girl. She's kind of like an otaku, real nerdy girl. Her dad runs like an arcade. That was kind of my idea. She's almost like she should be really awesome, but she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in here even though there's hundreds of people around me playing the same games I am. I'm going to play Capcom vs. Street Fighter in my room, thank you. So, she's the mummy. She becomes mummy. But she's like gross and bandagey and, yeah. So they're all kind of like, what are we going to do? Descendant of Frankenstein sews some teens together and tries to bring it to life and puts the belt on it and is like, huh? It doesn't work. He's like, dang, So he's like, a bunch of those teens made it though. So he's kind of scheming. Our man who helps, our Zordon, is not a good person. He's kind of like, well, they wouldn't let me end the world with them, so I'm going to make it really difficult. So he hunts down blood. He finds blood, and he's like, I got this. It'll allow you to, he's like, will it fix me? He's like, no. But it'll allow you to kind of turn the table on your curse. You will be able to use its powers for yourself and become kind of an armored rider like the one you saw. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And it's not until towards the end, like, in my, Eric said it earlier too, you have arcs. Mine's broken into 5 arcs, and the first arc of 10 episodes or so is essentially just the kids slowly getting their belts, they're transforming, dealing with their curse. And his is, it's funny because you said most up until a point, Kamen Rider starts with a fight with a spider or a bat. Mine is a bat versus spider, essentially, because when Blood transforms, I picture he has like a big cape with the goofy collar, and my riders all have very specific power sets, too, that are very strange and might be too high budget for a Kamen Rider show, honestly. But yeah, ultimately Blood takes it upon himself. He's like, oh, I can use this. I can be a hero. I can fight these monsters that are now kind of popping up around town.
You could do the thing Gaim does.
Yeah.
They have like 4 monster suits, and they just put all of the budget into cool rider suits.
Well, the first batch of things are, I have putties, kind of. They're called slashers, and they just kind of look like Jasons. Like, they look like little goofy Jasons with knives. So he kills a bunch of them, and then they spawn a big spider monster, or a spider monster man, which is sort of arachnophobia. And you're like, oh, it's a concept of fear. And that's kind of where we start establishing that all my monsters are not only concepts of fear, but monster movies from the 70s to 90s. I have a list. It's good. So he fights, and Blood's whole gimmick is when he bleeds, he can use his blood as a weapon. He can make it solid weapons. He can make shields. Make it rain knives, stuff like that. So he reveals his abilities. But when he untransforms, he's like hurt. And he's like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, I forgot to tell you, like, doing this kind of messes with the curse. It actually makes it a little worse every time you transform. He's like, why would I want to do this? And he's like, well, I mean, based on, he sort of reveals that every time, and this is a theme in mine, is I do the Hulk issue where I kind of make it bad to transform. Blood's drawback is every time he transforms, he gets a little stronger. He's like, the next time he transforms, he'll get new abilities, but now he needs more blood to maintain himself nightly. And if he gets too hurt or expends himself too much, he'll be drained and could go feral, essentially, and have to just drain people. So Blood's now dealing with his thing. And just, kind of go down the list. The whole first act's just this stuff. You get Rider Creature, who is, green armor rider. He can kind of control water, control fish, stuff like that. Animals. He's almost like armored Aquaman, almost. But he, every time he transforms, his ultimate reveal is he devolves further. He just gets closer and closer to Fishman monster. And he's like, ugh. The girl, Pharaoh, her whole thing is...
Does he look kind of like that?
No. Does not look like that guy.
Because that's Kamen Rider Gills.
Is he a fish man?
Yeah, he's cool. A Gilman Kamen Rider.
Pharaoh's whole thing is she becomes like a golden Pharaoh-looking character, armored up. Her whole power set is biblical powers. She controls swarms, meteors, stuff like that. Really weird mummy curses, and she's kind of like a spellcastery looking person. And her whole thing is she gets slowly prettier every time she transforms. And that doesn't sound like a drawback. If you're hearing a hum, it's the PlayStation 4 going off.
Yeah, I actually set the controller.
She slowly gets a little prettier.
We have to restart, Matt. We have ruined it. We got to go back to
all the way back. She gets a little prettier and a little bit more full of herself. And people just kind of supernaturally start liking her more and more. So hers isn't a drawback as much as it is like a slow decline that she's dealing with. What's the name? Moon's probably got the worst because he's going through Werewolf in London issues where he's like attacking people at night or attacking people in the day if he can. When he gets his belt, he finds out he's the only one who transforming doesn't have a drawback. It's just it's the coolest image in my head of all of them is whenever he transforms, a moon appears above him and it's full and it darkens as a timer, and that's it. He has like a 5 minutes or so to fight, and then he's like, I'm going right back to not having control of my body. Because he's in there, like, experiencing everything, but he's like, I only have control when I'm transforming. And his whole thing is he's kind of just super speed. I thought of a fun, cheap way to do it would be to make a bunch of his suit and film action scenes with him, a bunch of guys in the same suit, and just do motion blur. It'd be funny looking and cheap. Who else is in this thing? Oh, Fado, the Invisible Man guy, he's a jerk. Like, he's a bad person automatically, because he just, like, when he goes to get when his belt is brought to him, because this Frankenstein guy's trying to just mess with all these guys every chance he gets, the bad guys, he's doing Invisible Man stuff. Like, he's just stealing stuff and peeping on people, and he's just like, why would I want to do anything good with my powers? And he gets his belt, and he starts using it. He tries to use it for good. And his powers are kind of like the Sue Storm light spectrum. Shields, he can prism out and multiply. He can just do a bunch of stuff. He's just a big light fracture guy. But his transform is when he returns, he's one step closer. He's like slipping out of our reality. He's like he's invisible because you just can't see him. He's not visibly spectrum. But now he's starting to ghost dad every time he does it, where he's like, oh, I'm like fading away, and the world's getting invisible to him as he drifts away, and it's kind of starts messing with him. And then we do have a Frankenstein, whose name is Sozo, which I think is Japanese for creation, something like that. Sozo is, he's brought to life, but he's not the same kid.
Does he have a different brain?
Yeah,
does he have an
he's like that.
brain?
Yeah, he has like an abnormal brain, and he's like a new life form, and he's like, whoa, what's up? And there's a subplot with his
Abby Normal.
It's a subplot with his sister who's trying to find him and all that. But he spends the entire 10 episodes just kind of like lumbering around and kind of like, well, what is this? What's life? What I don't understand. And because his problem is he can transform and he's the strongest of them, but he dies the second he stops. It's like it overcharges him. So he's a lot of build-up. He's kind of their get out of jail free card a few times, but not really, because you can't just keep killing the guy. So 10 episodes. That's the first act. Those are just my characters, what their gimmicks are, what their drawbacks are. Oh, Sozo is super strong and has lightning powers. That's the thing. So they kind of spend the first act just kind of figuring out their powers, dealing with monsters. Act 2 starts to ramp it up as people start joining the forces of darkness, kind of being like, yeah, I'll be evil, let's do it. So we start getting more creative things, like the first thing might just be like the slashers or the sewer beasts, who are like a reference to Chud. We do like evil toys, Child's Play, stuff like that. Like I would do. There'd probably be a rawhide Rex in there, because he's a really obscure one. We do a Hellraiser, like a big puzzle master kind of guy. The Blob, I just have a bunch.
Do you have a Pumpkinhead?
I do. It's based on the idea is he could bind with you and his injuries turn into your injuries, like that idea, because that's not what he does, but it's close, and that's the idea. Is I spin everything. The Thing's in here too, like as a guy. So they're dealing with this, and some people are. One of the original ideas was they had two bullies who became Freddy and Jason, and they were just like little jerks, just the leader of putties essentially. So it's just turning into chaos in the city as they're ramping it up. Like, let's see how scary we can get because maybe we can rip open a portal to our dimension naturally through just fear. Act 2 is just a ramp up. I think it's kind of, it's bad news. So by Act 3, we're about 20 episodes in, and the writers are now like halfway into being. The Invisible Man is actually starting to get a little deranged because he can't process reality the same way as everybody else. He's really having trouble, and he already started as like, I'm abusing my power. So he's just getting worse. And Pharaoh is gone. She is just like, she's a demagogue at this point, like running the youth of the city as like a mini arcade cult. Blood is just, Blood's dealing with his thing. By now, we would have had the first time Sozo transforms, which he kind of is convinced by a little girl that, like, to save the day, and he transforms, kills, I think I went it with King Kong. The idea, they kind of whip the town into a frenzy, and their rage and their primal rage becomes a fear, which turns into a King Kong big beast, and he has to punch it to death. But then he turns off and he dies. The Doctor kickstarts him again, and it's just some jerk. It's some, like, nihilistic, mean, like, probably like a serial killer, not like a criminal. Like, he's just like, I don't care about people. So it's like, great, we're down at Rider now. Ultimately, I do want the Thing to be very important. The idea of like loss of identity as like one of them, and he just kind of starts becoming people and taking people. And Blood would be like, oh, I'm gonna do a microscopic like mass attack, use all my blood to just cut the virus out of everybody in this vicinity. And he does it, saves the day, but when he untransforms, he's lost so much blood, he blacks out. When he wakes up, he has killed everybody, he's drained them all, and he's just like, oh my god. So you're watching the main character kind of start to, and that's almost what the point is. You watch the main character start falling and dipping into, like, he's being whittled away. The Frankenstein guy, he's doing his thing. You're watching all these people whittle away, and it's almost intentional that I'd want Wolfman to kind of start outpacing, Moon to outpace Blood as the hero. And he would start as like, I don't care. I don't really care. He's almost like, you have to strong arm him into transforming to save somebody, and then it turns into, he's like, God dang, I gotta do it. So he's the only one who's not being driven crazy by his powers. I just wrote Angry Nature, Day of the Triffids. Oh yeah, this was one. One of them would be their high school becomes nuclear wasteland, because there's a really obscure one which everybody should watch called Class of Nukem High, where they build a power plant.
That's a trauma film.
Yeah, they build a power plant next to a high school, and it just goes crazy.
I think they did a sequel to that not too long ago.
It's probably great. So all our riders are starting to fail and fall apart, and they start coming into conflict with each other now. As the darkness directly just says, hey, Pharaoh and Phaedo, just help us. We'll fix you, first of all, and you can keep running things. And they're like, yes. So they start working to kind of conjure this anchor, finally. So the writers are dealing with that, and I think it's at somewhere around here. I didn't really lock it down, but the criminal kind of doesn't care about anybody version of Sozo, he eventually has to transform too and die and save the day. Which, then the third time he's kickstarted, it is the kid they've been trying to find, the actual original kid, and they're like, oh, cool, you can't transform ever. And he's like, well, what if you guys need me? I'm like, the best one. I'm like, no, you can't, we'll lose you. And it was so silly trying to find you in all this dead body person. So he's just kind of like, okay, and it eventually comes down to Fear. The main bad guy is basically just Fear. It's Fear himself. Reveals that he's like, well, I have a human driver, and what's that? And it's like, this one will purge you, it will fix you. And they're like, okay. And he's like, I only got one. So he's kind of like carrot and sticking the riders to kind of come into conflict with each other and tempt them and set them against each other. Ultimately ending in the deaths of Sozo as he finally transforms again, and they have to kill Pharaoh and Phaedo. Just they have to eliminate him. So we're left with Blood, who is kind of deranged at this point. By the finale of the series, he needs blood too much. He's like living in a church somewhere alone. Moon, who's just kind of like, we gotta get him that driver, he's going crazy. And Sozo, who's like, I'm not allowed to transform. You know, I can't help you guys. And it all kind of just culminates because I've been watching Gaim, and we were gonna start watching Oz again, and I was like, wow, there's like a lot of episodes where like just little things happen, just little moments, and that's kind of hard to really pitch without being like, so episode 6, this happens. But ultimately, it kind of comes down to the final plan of conjuring the anchor. Fear manifests, a bunch of monsters, a bunch of slashers. Fear manifests, and we get Blood, Moon, and Sozo and Creature. Creature's there. I keep forgetting Creature's there, but he's cool. He's like, I guess. And he transforms, knowing it's probably his last time. Like, he's like a feral monster. They almost have to Hulk him. Like, they have to trick him into chasing them to the fight, because he's so, like, Innsmouth retard at this point. And then Sozo finally, like, he's kind of keeping back, and Blood and, it kind of does come down to, he's like, I will give you the driver if you protect this pillar. Probably Blood and at this point, it's like, protect this pillar. So now you get Moon trying to fight off both Creature probably and Blood, because Blood's like, I need this, like, I'm not gonna make it. And he's like, yeah, this ain't the best way to do this. So they fight. Creature probably dies. I didn't really actually realize. I realized I didn't have a fate for him. Ultimately, a lot of these people don't make it. You get Creature eventually is either dead or stuck as a fish monster out somewhere. But ultimately, they go into the portal where the darkness spawns.
He's like the guy in Frisky Dingo.
Yeah,
the crab guy.
He just goes into the ocean. Yeah, but he's still, like, aware and not like a crazy person.
No, by the time he is full...
No, because she's like, no, go, get out of here. And he's like, well, you sure? Get out of here.
See, I thought he was, like, full monster by now. Just like...
No, he's like a monster, but he's kind of still there.
If anybody's never seen Frisky Dingo, if you like Archer, you should go watch Frisky Dingo.
You should definitely watch Frisky Dingo. You should just go backwards and watch Frisky Dingo, C-Lab, all the shows that led up to it.
Frisky Dingo is Archer, but with superheroes, kind of.
But yeah, the ultimate battle kind of comes down to a big, cheesy Wolfman Dracula fight, where they are fighting. Moon's not even fighting over the driver at this point. He's almost trying to knock Blood out to be like, take it, you idiot. And ultimately, Sozo has to transform. He has to be like, I'm sorry, like, I'm done. And he's like, don't bring me back this time, because, like, I'm done. Or don't try, because, like, chances are you're not going to find me. So he kind of, like, in a feat of strength, kills all the slashers, starts to break the pillar or the anchor loose to kind of dispel everything. It's kind of a big climax, and it ultimately comes down to Blood makes the decision to kind of, because Moon just runs out of time, and he's just a feral wolfman. So Blood makes the conscious decision just to knock him out, hook the driver to his belt, and throw him out of the portal as it closes. So you lose the main character, you lose the cool kid who just didn't want to become a monster, who still was like, I guess I'll fight, kind of. So, you know, you lose everybody. I kind of went really downer. And steadily, like, I want like 45 episodes of just watching these teens kind of just succumb to teenage stuff, you know. Blood would succumb to just angst and loneliness. Pharaoh would succumb to that kind of sense of wanting to be popular. Creature struggles with the fact of self-image, like, what is he turning into? Sozo's just fun, because I like having a big Frankenstein monster becomes a purple Kamen Rider. Because in Japan, corpses are purple, not green.
That's interesting, because Kiva, who form shifts into the Universal Monsters, purple is the Frankenstein color.
Nice! I didn't know that. Works perfectly. See, that's another issue. I didn't know there was a Universal Monsters Kamen Rider.
It's not good. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah. And I like the idea of, I love when they compete, when they're not exactly on teams, which is why Gaim's so much fun, because it's just kind of riders fighting. And yeah, like, that's, I kind of just sat around trying to find, like, what do teenagers do that's really destructive to their personalities? Now they're monsters. Probably the only one that doesn't is Moon, he's uncontrollable, I guess.
What color is he?
He'd be white. Well, when it was originally a Sentai-based thing, I only picked cool Ranger colors. So it was gold, red, green, white, and purple. Oh, and then colorless as the 6th Ranger. the Invisible Man.
I feel like this works better as Kamen Rider than as a Sentai, because a Sentai is
Definitely.
a team.
See, that was the issue, is I realized it didn't work at all as Sentai, but then I just kept thinking about it in my own time of like, well then what would their powers be? What would they do? What would this be? Yeah, and then I kind of, I don't know, I liked it. I like the idea. I like teenage angst in monster form almost, and I like setting up a villain, or setting up a hero, and then being like, no, it's this one. Ultimately, it is the Wolfman who is like uncontrollable, who's just like has to keep making the conscious decision to fight. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? You're the Kamen Rider guy.
I like that. I think it sounds good.
Awesome. Because you were the reason I was like really worried about this pitch. Because I'm like, Eric likes this stuff and knows more about this stuff more than me. And if Jared was here, I was like, oh my god, that's another guy judging me.
Well, I don't know. I think it's interesting that both of us have the Universal Monster thing. But I did that. But I did that intentionally, knowing like, okay, I know that there's already been a Kamen Rider where they've kind of done this, but they kind of squandered that potential. But no, I liked it. I mean, you should write it as not a Kamen Rider thing. You should like seriously just do it like as a book.
Definitely, and I'm gonna take this chance to say, because Eric's hasn't pitched me his yet, but he said it's a thing he's been working on for a comic. If anybody wants to do a comic with us, I'm always looking to work with somebody.
Yeah. So mine, I've been on and off working.
Shameless plug.
I've been on and off working on this idea since about 2008, and I know it's 2008 because I wrote like the opening scene, and then saw Iron Man. I was like, oh man, my opening scene has a dude with a thing in his chest laying on a table. So that's how I know I've been working on it since 2008. And it was always a Rider adjacent thing. Like it was. Well, this is kind of like Kamen Rider, but it's not.
Yeah.
So
it's probably the biggest problem of mine is I even said leaving the house. I'm like, I'm gonna try and not mention motorcycles or bug helmets as much as I can, because this was not designed specifically with them. But I definitely did consider a blood cycle that he forms, and like the like cool roller skates on water or something like that. Each of them having a thing.
So, but mine was kind of created somewhat as a reaction to Modern Kamen Rider, and it's dead air.
Dead air.
So like I've been working on this, and I started. There's a video still on my channel of me asking for an artist for a Tokusatsu thing. If you've seen that video on my channel, this is what that is. Because I started writing it. I have 2 months written as like a webcomic in like a newspaper format. Again, if anybody wants to be an artist if anybody likes to hear these stories, wants to be an artist, there's great possibilities.
We are ready and willing. Shameless plug.
So one of the things is I strip out like all of the Heisei stuff.
Yeah.
Like my show would never get made because there's no toys, there's no and the only thing I really changed taking it over to Kamen Rider is I had a motorcycle and made everybody Japanese.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we don't do anymore in Kamen Rider, and like some of the stuff that I did, we've started doing. Like one of the big things I really don't like about the Heisei era, specifically from Kuga to Decade, is they didn't really have bad guys. There were just monsters, and then the last couple episodes we would build up a big monster.
Yeah.
And there were no bad guys. Whereas old Kamen Rider, there's bad guys that are like scheming and like doing things. We've kind of gotten back to that. I think Oz has that.
Yeah.
Double has that. Gaim does not, but Gaim's its own beast. And Gaim's an intentional throwback to stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of intentionally...
Oh, kind of. It has like the OCP style company looking, like controlling everything behind the scenes.
Yeah. But they're not...
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's
a little different.
It's its own thing. But so, I do have form changes, but not like we have form changes in Kamen Rider now.
Yeah.
I don't have a secondary rider. It's very streamlined, stripped down, kind of back... it's not a large cast.
Yeah, nitty gritty.
It's also really dark, and I don't know. No, it's like yours is really violent and dark, and I feel like you could maybe get away with yours.
Yeah.
The tone of mine is like the themes and ideas. I don't know if Japan would let me tell children.
I just have horror movie casualties.
Yeah.
Darkest mine gets is teen drama.
So mine is called
times 10.
Kamen Rider Hito.
Yeah.
I have Japanese names for everything, and I've named puns because Japan loves name puns. Mm-hmm. So I have Kamen Rider Hito, which means man. Hito means man. We open up in like a really like dirty like laboratory. The main character's name is Ko, which means child. There's a thing going on there.
Child. Is he Paul Rudd?
No, he's not. He's not Paul Rudd. No, it's more the idea of someone who's not an adult but has the ability to kind of put on a face and like kind of that realization I feel like most people have like once they get out into the real world and it's like, oh, no one's an adult. No one knows what they're doing.
It's who can pretend the best.
Yeah, and so that's kind of like metaphorically what's going on with him is that he's really scared, he's really nervous, he's really going through things, but when he is Kamen Rider Hito, he's the gunslinger, he's the guy. So
he's almost like Spider-Man, where his confidence comes with the suit.
Yeah.
Except he turns into like Clint Eastwood. If I'm taking the gunslinger thing literally.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
dig it.
So, well, I wouldn't go Clint Eastwood. I would go more traditional hero, like more Superman than not fully Superman, but like that more that leaning, more classic Kamen Rider. Ko wakes up and he's got like the belt on him. He's shirtless, and his father's there, and his father's like explaining things to him really fast, and like, okay, like these things. His father is like a genius, biotechnical scientist kind of a thing, and they kidnapped him and murdered his wife, and then brought his child and be like, we'll kill him too if you don't do what we want. They want him to make. At this point, we don't know anything. Like it's a cold open. What is going on? Because
like I don't have a lot of time. So
because all old Kamen Riders have the exact same origin, which is bad guys kidnap them, turn them into a robot, forget to brainwash them first. Kamen Rider gets away. So here they kidnap his they've kidnapped his father, and the whole thing is, we want you to give us a way to turn humans into monsters, to soldiers that we can use. And so he starts doing it, and so he doesn't screw them. They're like, okay, well the first one you'll do it on is your son. Like if this doesn't work,
he'll die.
Yeah. So he does it, and then like he has like a teleporter thing. This is kind of a convenience, but like it'll be something that like clips onto the belt, where he's like this will only work once. Like there's only enough power for this to work once. Just get away. And he tells him that in the face of death, like because Ko was like, what is this thing? I don't. In the original idea for this, it's a chest thing, and that's easier to just always have on. I think Kuga has a belt permanently. I don't know if you can do that and make it not look silly. But the idea is that he has a belt like surgically, like it is just always on him. And so also for those that don't know, the reason we're talking about belts is Kamen Riders transform with belts.
Oh yeah, they transform.
We didn't explain that. Sometimes called drivers, which is why Matt said driver in his pitch.
I like the word driver.
Yeah,
it came up a few times. I even looked up other terms to be like, well, is there one that fits better? And I saw driver a lot.
Yeah. But so he has it like kind of surgically in his body, and again this is going back to the old ideas of Kamen Rider of they're cyborg people. They're not just a kid that gets a belt and can turn into a cool crime fighter like Power Rangers. He is completely remade.
They're augmented humans.
Yeah. And so his dad's like, just go, just get out of here, and he like clicks the button and he's teleported. And he falls in. Ko falls into a trash can, and like there's like a girl walking by, and like I want a shot of just like girl walking by, and then like a moment of just like pausing and like, did something just? And then like he crawls out, half naked, and
which can't look great.
Yeah, no. Well, and she's terrified of him because he's got this weird thing on his stomach, and because she's like what are you doing out here? Like were you stupid? Are you dense? Are you retarded or something?
Trash cans.
And she's really like scared of him, and he's confused, has no idea what's going on. He's like, what are you talking about? And so this is where we kind of explain the setting, which is, and kind of the mythology of the show, which is the monsters for this series are called those that live in the shadows, or just usually shorthanded to the shadows. It's not an original idea, but it's the idea of there's all of these monsters and stuff that like have been hiding. Like at the dawn of mankind, we forced these things back, kind of like the Golden Army and Hellboy.
Yeah,
and they're the source of inspiration for all of our myths.
Yeah,
that kind of a thing. But so they just got fed up. They're done with humans running things, and they just in a night come in and just remake an entire city. So it was a city, and now it's been remade so that there is, in the center of it, there's a big black tower.
Yeah.
And then...
it's like Blood Blockade Battlefront.
I had the idea before I read that. Well, maybe not the in one night, but yeah, similar. But it's...
Things are not good.
But it's built in... So there's a big tower, and then the city is built around it in, like you could do like a helicopter shot, discernible rings.
Yeah.
There's like... there were 4 rings around the Tower of City, and the city like actually shifted, like it moved around. So like you could have been in the middle of town, and after things got shifted, you're in ring like 3. And just so the city it like doesn't resemble itself at all. And he's in the furthest outermost ring, and she's really wary about him, but like is kind of letting him like tag along. She's on a food run.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't be out here. Like
you need a shirt.
Yeah, things are gonna go bad.
So are the shadows in relation to the company that's making people, like soldier people?
The idea is that
were they living in this city beforehand? Was this always a thing?
Well, the shadows have always been there. They've always existed, like in.
Well, I mean, was this city? Were we in this city prior, or did he?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we would have been in the tower prior, probably.
Yeah. So they are in charge.
Yeah. It's not a company. They just abducted a scientist because they want to make humans like them.
Okay.
And so they the girl's name is Natsuko.
Yeah.
Which also means child.
I see where we're going.
But she's not called Natsuko, she's called N. Just like shorthand to N, which is important for a pun.
A very, very good pun.
And so she's kind of taking him home because he's just as like he clearly has no idea. Ko has no idea what's going on, so she kind of trusts him, and she's kind of taking him home. And then like there's like a disturbance in the sound, and he's like I gotta go see what that is. She's like, no, you don't understand. Like, no, just don't do it. And there's like a father and a child, and the monster is like the Jersey Devil, like a big bat thing.
Yeah. Big bat deerman.
Yeah, and he eats the child.
Oh.
Which
gobbles him up.
I think there's a way that you could do that would play well with censors that was less like you could do a silly thing of like having his jaw extend and just swallow him whole.
Into the suit.
Yeah, he doesn't come back though. He's dead.
Yeah.
And the father is just like destroyed at that moment. And then like there's that like callback like voiceover thing of like in the face of death your true power will be revealed, and like the belt starts like to activate, and like he does like a pose thing, and then he transforms into Kamen Rider and fights the monster and beats the monster. And then like he goes to save the dad, and the dad grabs like, because I imagine everything is like not Escape from New York, but like there's broken windows everywhere.
Yeah.
There's also probably cardboard boxes everywhere. Like it's a trashy 80s like city. Yeah. And the dad grabs like a shard of glass and just like is like I can't live with this, and just kills himself. And so, and Ko is like really shaken by this. By like, wait, like he could have pieced his life back together. Like he just killed himself. Like that's,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been suicide in Kamen Rider, but it's in mine.
It's happening.
And really like conflicted with that, and like as we kind of see more of the world, it is very askew. It is very Natsuko takes Ko back to her family's home, and sidetrack for a second. So I have 5 arcs as well. There are 4 10-episode arcs and 1 7-episode arc. They're called circles.
Yeah.
So Circle 1, I have titles for each of them. Circle 1, and I tried to have fun and do like weird Japanese naming schemes.
Yeah.
Like how their movies are named weird. So Circle 1 is Birth of a New Hero, Revolution Begins.
Oh man.
Suicide. But
the full title. Suicide.
But Natsuko takes Ko back to her house, and her family has this like really big mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And Ko is immediately upset with her parents. Because he's like, there's monsters roaming around. You have this giant house, and no one is, and you're not letting anyone else live here.
Yeah.
Because like we see people like homeless, not like normal homeless people. Like people don't have homes anymore, and like their house has like a really nice like defense system. And so
was Ko and his family living here before, or were they abducted to the city?
No, they probably would have lived in the city.
Okay. He's asking a lot of questions.
Well, just that.
Yeah.
Because like there's monsters everywhere, and
yeah. Why are you guys being so stingy?
And they explain that like, well, we did let people in, and some of them have just gone crazy and like tried to murder like the rest of us. So we had to we locked our doors. We got everybody out, and we just.
It'd be funny if it was like, oh no, they did let people in, and we killed them.
And so we see that after he's transformed, he's got like kind of like scars that like have come out of the belt. Mm-hmm. I want to have like a recurring theme of, or a thing where every time he transforms, his scars grow a little bit. And so, like, by the end of this show, he is just covered in scars. This works better when it's a chest thing, but, like, as a belt, it works all right.
Yeah.
But so, he kind of starts to stay with them, and Ko and En clearly, like, kind of have a thing. Like, she's just kind of fascinated by him, and she's a pretty girl, so, like, he likes...
He's into her.
Yeah. But he's really kind of bound by like a sense of justice. Like he just immediately is like, well, you have to, like he's like, well, I'm gonna go fight the monsters. Like yeah. I have this power, I can do it. And so some of this is gonna be really detailed, and some of this is gonna be really like like overview.
The important stuff of like these are the themes. This is what this is.
So over there's maybe the last scene of the first episode, or maybe the somewhere in the second episode would be a scene where we see the monsters.
Yeah.
There are 4 generals. Like, that's kind of what we usually call them in, like, Kamen Rider and stuff. Like, I feel like in Power Rangers, they're always generals. There are 4 generals, and then there's, like, a big boss. The big boss we will not see until the very end. Anytime they meet... There's a way that we shot things in the 80s. Just a way that we shot, like, dark rooms with, like, mist. I can't explain it. Like, if you watch Kamen Rider Black, like, you can kind of see it. It's a really creepy room that just has chains hanging anywhere or everywhere. And so when the generals meet, they're there, and they talk into the darkness, and a voice comes back, but you don't see what's in it. You just kind of see these chains hanging out.
We both kind of have a void that they talk to.
Yeah. I mean, mine's...
I think yours will be something. Mine's just a concept of fear.
Yeah, mine is something. But so, the generals are Yaju, which means beast. He's the wolf man. We have Sosei, which is the Frankenstein monster, which means rebirth.
Very similar names.
I have Shinka, which is the gill man, which means evolution.
Nice.
And I have Ichichi, which is the vampire, which means lifeblood. And then the big bad is called Oja. Oju. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Oju, which means death. So like they kind of have a conversation like somebody just killed one of our guys.
Yeah. You know Craig from Encounter?
Yeah. And they all kind of have different opinions on what to do with him. Gilman's kind of interested and like kind of wants to see what he's going to do. Frankenstein wants to like just abduct him and experiment on him. My Frankenstein is kind of both Frankenstein and the monster.
Oh, he's experimenting.
Yeah, he's the scientist guy.
Cool.
And the vampire is very doesn't really have an opinion. Like he's like, well, let's just kill him. Like, why is this a big deal? He's not a threat. And the Wolfman is like, I'm gonna hunt him down and kill him because the first circle is Wolfman, and that we're in his territory. Each of them, there's 4 circles. Each of them kind of run one of those territories. So Wolfman is in charge of the first territory. So the first 10 episodes is kind of the Wolfman arc. In going out and fighting and stuff, Ko meets a guy named Ma.
Yeah. Which means bad.
Or
Wa.
demon.
Yeah, Ma's demon. Wa's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, yeah.
Wow. Bad video.
See, it's a pun.
It's a pun, and it's perfect.
He's I kind of picture him like Orphan. I don't know if you've ever seen Orphan. He is an 80s street punk. Yeah. Like he has like a jacket with sleeves cut off. He's got a red bandana. Yeah. He is the only person fighting monsters.
Awesome.
He's just a regular guy who like gets the crap kicked out of him, but he is able to fight just good enough that he can get the monsters to like leave people alone. Like he can't beat them.
He's a street punk Casey Jones.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what he is. And so Ko and him like meet up, fighting some kind of monster, maybe like a Yeti. Because one of the things that like I'm kind of not sure about completely is because they're broken into brackets of monsters. Where like Wolfman's monsters are like the beast monsters.
Yeah.
Gilman and Wolfman
are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the difference between their monsters would be. And the vampires would be mostly like the more supernatural ones or the night-based ones. I'm not really sure exactly how the brackets would go down. But so the first like round of monsters would all be like Yeti, Chupacabra. There will be a Chupacabra. But so Ko meets Ma and is oh, by the way, because Ma's a main character with and Ko, together their names are Ko Enma, which is the child of Lord Enma, who is the ruler of the afterlife in Japanese mythology. Ko Enma, which would be child Enma, is the kid in Yu Yu Hakusho.
That's a deep reference.
Yeah, but it kind of there's kind of a thing there with the afterlife and stuff like there's kind of a it kind of means stuff. And each of their names individually kind of mean things. Each of their names mean things, and all of their names together mean something.
Excessively clever.
Yeah, but that's how the Japanese make things. So kind of over the course of the arc is mostly just kind of like going out and fighting monsters and stuff. And Wolfman just getting Sosei. His name is Sosei. Nope. That's Frankenstein.
Nope.
Yaju.
Which
I wanna guess that's kind of root word for the predator, the Yaju.
Oh, the Ya or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a root word. Anyways, so like throughout the course of this episode, Yaju's just getting like angrier and angrier. That like
I can't easily kill him.
Yeah, and so at some point, Ma and Ko are out fighting monsters, and N calls and is like, "There's something wrong."
Yeah.
And so Ma's like, "I'm gonna go check on her. Like, something bad's happening. This monster's attacking. You go deal with them." And so Ma goes back to the house and Ko stays, and just all of the monsters left in this area just all show up, and the Wolfman's there, and like they just beat the crap out of him. Like his armor cracks, and like maybe you do the Spider-Man thing, like he's like, and but he wins.
Yeah.
He beats all of them, and then he like kind of like is limping back, kind of like the Death of Ultimate Spider-Man. and he gets back, and En's house is on fire. Her parents are dead. While they were doing this, the monsters like found out where he lived and was just like, we're just gonna murder him.
Yeah.
I mean, and so like there's that's where Yaju, the actual Wolfman, is. And so there's a big final fight and between Ko, Ma, and Yaju. And they beat him. And like this is the point where Ko is just like, okay, I've kind of been protecting people, but like I gotta go on the offensive here. And so he decides
this is when he's like, I'm gonna forward.
Yeah, because this is a journey show.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna move into the next. I just threw a motorcycle in. I like the idea of it not actually being like a souped up motorcycle, like it is just a travel vehicle. Mm-hmm. And so Ko gets a motorcycle from En's parents. Yeah. Because he kind of chills with them and like he kind of likes them, and so he would get a motorcycle from the dad. Like the dad's like maybe a motorcycle enthusiast and gives him like a cool motorcycle.
Don't feel so bad about not working too hard to put motorcycles in. None of the Kamen Rider shows ever do.
No,
Never.
not nothing in Heisei. Anyways, not since I don't know. But and so and probably Ma and will have their own motorcycles.
Yeah.
And might ride
on
the back
it?
of Ko's. Yeah. And makes it. And makes it. No. Her parents are dead. Ma was able to like save her.
Fuck yeah.
But the house is burned down. What? Oh.
I like Ma a lot. Like I picture him being really cool.
He's awesome. In my head, he's awesome.
He's like the Keaton in my head. Like he's not the coolest guy, but he's like at the end you're like, Ma's the best.
Yeah. And so we get to the second ring, which is Ikichi, who's the vampire.
Oh wow, vampire's not the main, or not like higher up.
Gilman's my favorite, so he has to be the last one. And Frankenstein is intentionally placed. Okay. So I was like, well, I guess vampire's next. This is the arc that I have the vaguest idea of what's going to happen. It's Circle 2. It's called Cursed Nights. Originally I wanted to call it What a Terrible Night for curse for a curse or something like that, but it's Cursed Nights. And the idea is in this area, it's always nighttime, and it's all the night-based monsters. This is really like, I don't really know what would happen this because plot-wise it's not super important. Yeah. It would be, this is where a lot of the character stuff would be. You would have episodes where like En and Ma, who haven't really hung out together, they become friends, and you really build a bond between the three of them.
You get to kind of shuffle the dynamics.
Yeah, and so like it's really a 3-character show. Just one of them happens to be the Kamen Rider. But it's about all 3 of them together. And a lot of like thematically being about growing up a little bit and like facing the world and like having like a close group of friends that like help you move through the world. Then we get to the third arc.
Another thing, we both dealt with kind of adolescence and moving on, except I went nosedive into badness. Mine's
a little bit older. Mine is more the early...
The transition.
Yeah, the early adult. And one of the things that I want to have is I want Ko to be smart because his dad's like a genius.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that he is smart but lazy. And so he'll be like tinkering on his armor. And like, so like maybe he'll get, like he doesn't have form changes, but maybe he'll be like, well, I can like do this and now I've got like a cannon that like can pop up and shoot things.
He starts modding himself.
But he definitely finds that there is more power in the belt. He's like, there's more power. I don't know how to get to it, but there's definitely something else here that like I could be stronger. But yeah, I like the idea of, I mean, that could be a toy where like you sell an action figure and then you sell attachments. Where these kids join
like
with all their
equipment packs with like arms and stuff.
Yeah. And so
very expensive and cool action figure.
Yeah, I like the idea of him being like kind of like a young Tony Stark that like is
he's very modular.
Yeah. Well, not super modular, but like I like the idea that Kamen Riders are never smart. They're never they're never science based. They're never able.
Yeah.
The suits and the powers are always out of their control.
Yeah, they're kind of just slaves to. I gotta turn it on and fight.
I like the idea that if this is a science based thing, that you can kind of tinker with it and tweak and things like that. And I also have probably scenes of like partial transformations where like he'll just have like the glove on and he's like tinkering it. He doesn't have to be in the whole costume. I don't really know how that would work because you have to do a big transformation scene, but like I like the idea. So the third circle, which will be episodes 21 to 30, is called Darkest Enemy, Tears for a Friend. The big crux of these episodes is Frankenstein kidnaps Ma and remakes him as like an evil cyborg monster man.
No.
I kind of picture him as like kind of like the Guyver.
Yeah.
Kind of very biomechanical. He is not a rider. A lot of times, like in more recent, like it comes from Shadow Moon. If you watch Kamen Rider Black, there's an enemy called Shadow Moon, who could kind of be like an evil rider. He doesn't exactly look like a rider. And so the whole idea is early on in this arc he gets turned into I don't have a name. I wrote down Destructor because I thought it was funny because we were talking about how we liked in Ghostbusters. I didn't have a cool name, but he is not a rider. He has some kind of dark name. And
dark name. My favorite bad guy.
Bad word.
Bad word.
The ultimate.
Ill intent.
And so he gets turned into this monster. He's already a really good fighter, so like he's actually like a threat. And he Frankenstein's not actually a fighter. Like that's the thing that like, I think would be kind of fun to do is Frankenstein's. We got to this area. He's not the bigger, badder monster.
Yeah.
He's smart. And he's tactical.
There's a reason he's up here.
Yeah, and he's kind of he would appear in the previous arc just kind of watching. Mm-hmm. And so he specifically picks Ma because it's his friend, he'll torture him, but also because like he's a good physical specimen. And so Ma would actually be like the bad guy of this season or of this arc of these 10 episodes, and I really want to break the standard tradition of like, I know you're in there. Like, just listen to me, and like I want the final fight to be Ko kind of being like, I can beat you. Yeah. And just getting like brutally beaten because he won't really fight him. And he's like I know that like I can fix you, and he can't. His brain has been surgically altered. Yeah. He is not the same person, and so he has to kill him. Mm-hmm. So he kills his friend, and that's kind of like shattering, and then like he just like really like darkly and mercilessly murders the Frankenstein monster.
Destroys that.
Who's Sosa? He's Sosa. Yeah. He just like kind of is like the we do shots like this a lot where it's just like the holding up a gun. Just if you could do that with a rider kick. If you could do like a really like cold just rider of just like, and then he's gone. So he's really messed up. It's kind of a western. I'm jumping back to with the motorcycles. I like the idea of those being like the horses and like you're going on a journey. And so yeah, Ma's gone for the rest of the show. That's why he's demon. Yeah. He's Ma. It's foreshadowing.
Oh man.
So then we get to the circle 4, which is final indignation. The shadows strike back.
Oh my god!
I couldn't come up with anything that sounded better than strike back. Yeah. It's not an Empire thing, but the idea is that like we get to the last circle before the tower, and the Gillman, whose name is Shinka, he's like, we've lost 3 guys, and
I'm out.
Like we kind of have some monsters in those areas, but we're losing territory a little bit, and like this isn't good. And so the monsters just start like killing people. Like they're like, oh, we were gonna try and like set up shop and be like a city and like this kind of no more. Like we are just murdering people. We're not even have our own lives. Because like before, like monsters would attack people because monsters need to eat and things like that. Like now they're just straight up like going around killing people. And there's a big confrontation between N and Ko about if he's doing the right thing or not, if they're doing the right thing or not. You know, fighting the the monster is now making them. It's worse than ever now.
Yeah.
And so they kind of split, and she kind of goes her own way, and he kind of goes his way. And he's just broken and angry and, like, never untransforms. Like, I want, like 4 or 5 episodes where he is just always transformed, and he's just going from monster to monster, just, like, taking them. And he figured out, like, how to, like, partially, like, he's, like, because he talked about, like, there was more power. He figures out how to tap into some of that. Like, he's like, I can't access everything, but, like, I can kind of siphon some extra power. And so, like, he gets, like, a power-up because Shinka is really powerful.
Yeah.
And he can't beat him. And then, like, he has, like, a power-up. And he has, you know, form change, and he's able to beat him. And he's able to beat him probably, like, kind of easily. Like, kind of like Goku fighting Frieza to Goku Super Saiyan fighting Frieza.
Yeah.
Where it's like, he wasn't getting destroyed, and now he's, like, the fight flips.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final arc, which is just called Tower. The last 7 episodes...
Just him climbing a tower?
Yes. It's... The first 5 episodes are kind of 2 plots that I want... I want the plot with Kamen Rider Hito... I want it to be like it's in both seasons, episode 3 of Daredevil. I want it to be like a 5-episode just constant fight up through the tower of, like, there's no plot stuff going on with him. There's no, like, he's just kind of fighting, and, like, he's done, and he's at the end of his rope, and he's not even sure, like, when the monsters start killing everybody, like, people don't even fight back. And, like that bothers him. That, like, I've been staying up for these people, and I've been saving these people, and they don't even care. But he's just, like, he's run on fumes, and he's just fighting his way up through this tower. The second plot that would go on through these episodes is focusing on En, who is going around trying to help people. She's not fighting monsters, she's trying to get people to safety. Maybe she's even, like, trying to set up, like, a shelter, but she's doing all of that stuff. And then... when we get to the last 2 episodes, because it's a 47-episode season, which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
Most Kamen Riders are between, like, 45 and 50. Gaima's 47, I believe. So, the last 2 episodes, En, like, saving someone, getting somebody to safety, she dies. She's just... She's, like, stabbed by a monster or something, and just kind of lays there in, like, just... Like, her body's just laying there on the ground. So we get to the top of the tower, and we finally find out what Oju is, which is he's a mummy.
Oh, man.
But he's a mummy wrapped in chains instead of bandages, which is the dumbest, coolest thing that no one's ever done. Like, it's just sitting there. Like, Todd McFarlane, what's up? Why didn't you do this yet? And I love the idea of, like, at the start of the fight, like, we still kind of don't see him, and, like, chains just, like, shoot out of, like, the darkness through the chains and stuff like that, and it's just, like, a big fight. Second to last episode ends with a chain just going through Hito. And, like, just kind of... The chain pins the wall, but he's not pinned the wall. He's just kind of, like, hanging there with the chain through him, and he dies. And Kamen Rider's eyes light. The light goes out in those eyes. Maybe even he de-transforms. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then, like, episode ends. And then we get to the last episode, and we open with the repeat of the line, in the face of death, your true power will be revealed. All of that power he couldn't access, like, activates now. It's him dying that activates the full power of... I'm really proud of that. I think it's a fun... I feel like if this was a television show and you got to that, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool that it's all the way back in episode 1. So he, you know...
If only he had thrown himself off a building to start.
And it's still not, like... This is not like the Gilman fight where, like, the dynamic shifts. Now he's just able to fight.
Yeah.
And kind of throughout the fight, I kind of want to have a discussion about, like, the two of them kind of, about humanity. And, like, this is really where we get, like, the philosophy of the shadows of just, like, No, you guys had your time.
Yeah.
Like, we have stayed back because we're scary and you don't like us. Which, by the way, you forced us into the shadows because we're scary and you don't like us. Meanwhile, you know, all these awful things have happened. You've done all these things, and you've progressed so little, really, when you think about it. In all this span of time, like your time is done.
We're tired of watching.
Yeah. We took this city and we're hoping to be able to like maybe work with humans. He's like, that's not happening. Mm-hmm. We're just getting rid of humans. So he has the big final fight, and Ko wins. But he's like mortally wounded. Yeah. He's still gonna die. And so he kind of I have the ending of it written down. Ko stumbles out of the room they're fighting in onto like a balcony.
Yeah.
Ko sits down. He's kind of holding like his side, like he's bleeding out. He's dying. He looks out over the city and says, "I hope it was worth it. I hope you make it worth it." He slumps back and dies slowly. We get to a POV of the ground behind N's body. So like, it's on the ground. You see N's body, and then you see like the tower.
And N died too?
Yeah, I said she died protecting the people.
Oh.
Yeah, she got stabbed and her body's just laying there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You said he tried to save a woman or something.
She
tried to save. Okay,
yeah, she tried to save a woman and she dies.
Okay.
Which is why I hope you make it worth it is kind of sad and tragic because she's dead. She's not going to.
Nobody's making this. This city's gonna burn.
Yeah. The tower begins to crumble and fall. The city begins to rearrange back to its original forms. Like everything's kind of like shifting back. And then the ending is, ironically, this actually got slightly lighter than what I originally wrote at over the past couple of days.
Huh.
Like it was originally more cynical than what it is now. Montage over the next couple of weeks as people put their lives back together and then begin to go back to normal. And then like we kind of like we have a montage of like life, like to the point where the city gets back to usual.
Yeah.
And we see good things and we see bad things. Muggings and charity, violence and peace, funerals and births. Because at the end, no matter how wonderful or awful something is, life goes on. Mm. And like that's the ending is all of this crazy stuff happened. And then
says business as usual.
Yeah, and then it's like nothing happened. Because that's how society ends up operating.
Yeah.
World War II happened and we're like you can go to Germany now and it's just like a normal place.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think that ending would be allowed on. Also, I don't know if I could get like there would be no crazy fun Rider crossover movie after this because he's dead. But yeah, so that's my thing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I like. I've been working on it since 2008.
Segmenting into districts, that's good.
Yeah, it's kind of video gamey. It's kind of westerny. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, so prompt for next week or for the week after next. Yeah. We are going to have Steve Baxi on because everyone loves Steve Baxi and can't get enough of him.
But if our history of saying guests are coming on is consistent,
that's true. Steve Baxi will not be on next episode.
Something will happen.
But hopefully, yeah, we were possibly going to have someone on this week. That didn't work out. I think I said that last episode. We might have him.
Yeah.
He's sick and wasn't able to be here, which is probably good because I feel like this episode went on longer than usual. Yeah. I mean. It's about 40 minutes longer. Yeah, no, it's not 40 minutes longer. It's a little bit longer than usual.
So everybody's favorite, Steve Baxi.
Yeah. Steve Baxi's going to be on next episode. The prompt is...
And you said this was going to make me do awful things to myself.
Yeah, it's... I think we're going to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do this well. It's a sequel to The Dark Knight, not Rises.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a sequel to The Dark Knight.
Oh, man. That one won't be as bad as Transformers.
I feel like that one's going to be hard because we already have a movie to compare it against. Yeah. It has to be better than Rises.
That's not hard.
I feel like we think it's not hard, but I wonder.
Right.
But yeah, so that will be next week. I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
And we will see you all in 2 weeks.